Hello and welcome to Pitt Street Research. My name is Stuart Roberts and I'm one of the co-founders of our firm. And joining me from Perth on the morning of Friday the 30th of May 2025 is Dr. Richard Lipscombe, who's the CEO of Proteomics International, ASX PIQ. Richard, good morning.
Good morning, Stuart.
So this has been a labour of love for you, Proteomics International. You and I first met way back in the early years of the 21st century. You've been CEO of this company at least 12 years now, I believe.
Well, the listed entity 10 years, but 24 years just completed since we first formed the company back in 2001.
Right. And through that time, Proteomics International has evolved from a sophisticated platform for proteomics analysis to a company that selects proteins with high levels of diagnostic potential, where effectively you're creating the best diagnostic available. PromarkerD is an amazing product. First product with predictive capability for kidney function in patients with type 2 diabetes. No one's ever done that before.
That's right, yes. So we did start on it a few years ago, and at that time, the only tests available were very traditional urine tests or really old blood tests, both been around 50 years. They could only diagnose the disease when it was already chronic, meaning already serious. And with our tests, with the biomarkers we found, which is a protein fingerprint circulating in the blood, we can predict which patients will develop diabetic kidney disease 3 or 4 years in advance, which is obviously a major breakthrough for the field and really important for those patients and healthcare systems.
Absolutely. But the patients and their caregivers can take action to manage that risk. And we all know that kidney disease is hideously expensive to treat once it gets going. And ultimately, some of those patients unfortunately reach end-stage renal failure. We've potentially cut off a lot of downstream trouble for patients with your diagnostic.
Yes, that's the key. And in fact, there's the term to it. One is we're stopping people going on that path to dialysis and kidney transplant, and the end-stage disease is obviously the very expensive part. But even before that, the early stages of kidney disease, healthcare costs go up. Patients are more vulnerable to a range of other diseases because the kidneys are the body's filter system. And if the filter system doesn't work properly, then you can get a range of other diseases. Think about your pool pump in summer. If that goes, then the pool turns a funny color. Well, it's the same in the blood. If your kidneys don't work properly, then you've got a problem. So that's where our test comes in, and then it's great to see the new therapies that are available for these patients.
Right. The clinical data looked great as you took this project from concept stage into clinical studies. We've been waiting for a while for the product to get approved and then onto the market. You've now reached the very sweet spot where the product's on the market and the patients are using it. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, that's exciting. That's obviously the pleasing part, to start seeing patients using the test, to get it from the concept through to actually starting to make money. It's perfect on all fronts.
Right. And talk to us about the decisions that were made in terms of the appropriate distribution method to make the diagnostic available.
Yes, we considered the different options available to us. It is a sophisticated test and it requires a certain level of skill to be able to run the test appropriately. And particularly for an Australian market, there's been an opportunity for us to establish clinical certification for our existing laboratory, and that's what we've done. And with that in place, the objective is to get first sales, and that applies for PromarkerD and our other tests. So what we've really focused on is getting that certification in place so that the lab can provide clinical grade testing, and then a direct-to-consumer route, be that patient or general practitioner, so that people can see the test, start using the test, and build that awareness. You can't start talking about it in the community unless it's really available. And with that in place, then we obviously have the opportunity to look at other partnering options, and those dialogues are continuing. But the key message really for our shareholders and for the users of the test, it's about first sales. And by getting that up and established with a direct-to-consumer digital healthcare route in Australia, then we can mirror that into other jurisdictions as well. And that's really key for the US.
Right. And what impressed me when you were first talking about this pathway was that it didn't cost the earth to then get the expertise of your laboratory up to scratch. So samples can come in from anywhere around the country, get appropriately analysed, and then back to the patient and their doctor in a reasonably good period of time. That's a great test bed for you in other markets.
It is. The key to understand here is that we have a very high-grade laboratory that's been developing these tests and bringing them to the point of clinical use. So we have, for the PromarkerD, a fully automated system, and people can see some videos of that on our website, but that can do 100,000 tests just on a 9 to 5 type basis. And obviously, it doesn't mind working nights either. So 100,000 tests a year. It's very easy to scale is the point. And then that's very easy to replicate into other laboratories. So as you say, it's not an expensive path either for getting the tests live. That direct to patient route through digital doesn't require dozens or hundreds of salespeople on the ground. That's for others, and those opportunities will come for the test. But again, it's you can do a lot through your computer these days. You can order anything, and you can order PromarkerD now.
Absolutely, it's great. And now behind PromarkerD, we're building a pretty good pipeline of diagnostics. And the emphasis here is on let's not do a Me Too diagnostic. Let's do something that is new to medicine. ProMarker Endo, next cab off the rank. You've got the world's best diagnostic test for endometriosis.
Yes, we've got two tests coming: endometriosis and esophageal cancer. They're neck and neck, for which will go live. But yes, we have first-in-class blood test for endometriosis. At the moment, that's only done by invasive surgery. And we've got really powerful results that we've presented. We've published at the end of last year. We've just presented them at the World Endometriosis Conference. And it shows that we can diagnose endometriosis from a blood test with high accuracy. So that could potentially transform the way that these women and girls are managed, because at the moment, there's a reluctance to perform that surgery because it's got risks, people aren't being believed, and can take several years before diagnosis, whereas a blood test, well, that could absolutely improve the management of those patients.
Absolutely. And we're talking a not uncommon condition. For instance, Scott Morrison's and his wife, she had endometriosis and has spoken publicly about her struggles with that. We're talking about a significant market opportunity.
Yes, we are. And that's something that we don't talk about enough. Endometriosis affects at least 1 in 9 women and girls. That numbers are probably increasing with awareness. There's conversations in Australia that figures 1 in 7. In a fertility clinic environment, it could be as high as 1 in 3, meaning there's endometriosis present in a lot of people, and it may not affect health for some, but it can affect the body in other ways. So yes, it's an enormous market opportunity, and a lot of people suffering with the condition that we can help.
Right. Talk to us about ESO. Obviously, a big step forward in a particular cancer.
Yes, again, first-in-class test, esophageal cancer, nasty cancer. Think acid reflux. That's the starting point for esophageal cancer. Not all acid reflux leads to esophageal cancer, but if you've got esophageal cancer, that's probably where it started. And currently, that's only diagnosed by endoscopy, which is another procedure, half day, where a pipe is stuck down the throat and a biopsy is taken. And again, our blood test can diagnose the presence of this cancer with really high accuracy. And it's, again, a straightforward blood test that we can run in our facilities. So both of those tests we're in the process of getting live in the next few months.
Right. And maybe it's too soon to speculate, but I presume beyond that will be other diagnostics, again, based on this great proteomics platform that you've built, where the emphasis is on new diagnostics that really make a difference.
Yes, we do have other tests in the pipeline that we're looking at. We're obviously focused now on the commercialization of these 3 because getting them to market is the key, both for Australia and the US and then into Europe. So the emphasis is on the existing tests, but the platform that we built is a really fantastic tool for coming up with new diagnostic tests. And the area of proteomics, looking at proteins in a system, it's not been well studied at an industrial scale before. We've been able to do that. And it's a real point of difference for us that we can come up with these new tests. And consequently, that's why we look for areas where there's a significant unmet medical need. As you said before, there's no point coming up with a Me Too test. That's for others. We can make a difference in the world by coming up with something radically different, and that's what we'll continue to do.
Right. Now, proteomics has been built out of Perth. Perth is a long way away from a lot of places. If you haven't been to Perth, folks, get over there. It's God's own country, and I can say that I'm not from Perth myself, but I love going. But it's not known for biotech so much as it's known for mining. But you've successfully built a pretty good biotech offering in your company from Perth. What motivated the decision to build the company from there?
Yes, it's opportunity. Obviously, lifestyle helps. So when we set the company up in the early days, there was a good environment for the technology that we were doing. Proteomics as a field really started in Australia back 25, 30 years ago at first origins, and it's matured since. We had the opportunity to build a company here, and we've managed to recruit people from all over the world to come and work with us. So our team is very multicultural, very multinational here in WA, because people do want to come and live here, and they're very happy to stay. Time zone wise, it's actually also a very good location. We do a lot of work through Asia, and so being on the Asian time zone is helpful. And yeah, after that, we do have people on the ground in India, in the US, and so we can operate in other parts of the world in a straightforward way.
Right. And let's not forget, Perth is set up with some world-class institutions. We're talking Sir Charles Gairdner Hospital, QE2 Medical Centre, Telethon Kids, the list goes on.
Yes, and that's actually a key bit which I didn't pay due credit to. World-class institutions have led to world-class clinical studies, and some of the biobanks and the clinical cohorts that are available in Western Australia are second to none. Australia is very good because it's isolated and it's got a good healthcare system, so we do retain people in studies. And in Western Australia, it's a fantastic retention rate. And the work that we did in the diabetes area to come up with PromarkerD, that was following a group of diabetes patients in the central district of Perth, and just outside of Perth in Fremantle. We could follow them for 10 years. And the people didn't leave the study. The only ones who left, we joke, unfortunately, the ones who died. But the retention rates otherwise are fantastic, which means with cutting edge technology and really good clinical patient samples, you can ask questions that other people can't easily ask. And that's another point of difference. We've been able to look at these patients with our technology platform and therefore come up with new answers that others just haven't been able to address.
Right. Now, for investors who don't know about yourself, give us a bit of your background. You're obviously not from around here yourself.
Well, half a life in Western Australia now, originally out of the UK. So yeah, original interest in chemistry. I studied in Oxford and then moved into immunochemistry and did a PhD in immunology at the University of London, and then had the opportunity to come out to Western Australia to extend that research career. And early on, again, saw with another colleague there who became the co-founder of Proteomics International, just this space where proteomics was going to take over from genomics, and as they say, the rest is history. Right.
It's now May 2025. What do you hope to have achieved by this time in 2026?
This is a big year for us. Where we're at now, we have PromarkerD live in Western Australia. It will go live across Australia, and then the other tests will follow. So by this time next year, we will have 3 new first-in-class tests for chronic diseases live in 2 continents. That's the expectation, Australia and the US, and likely to be showing early progress in other countries as well. But the primary objective, as I said, sales for the 3 tests have them being used by patients in Australia and the US.
Well, Dr. Richard Lipscombe, well done on what you've achieved at Proteomics over a very long journey. I hope you get lots of fan mail from patients around the world, because, this is a PromarkerD alone look, you won't win the Nobel Prize for it, but I hope you get rich or even just moderately wealthy off of the success of this, given the help you've done for patients. And good luck for everything else that's coming over the next 12 months.
Yeah, thanks, Stuart. And yeah, 1/10 of the world have got diabetes, 1/10 of the world have got endometriosis. There's big numbers here, and so there's a lot of patients are going to benefit, and I think our shareholders will benefit as well as a consequence of that.
All right. Thanks for joining Pitt Street Research.
Thank you very much.